now here in South Carolina, Ashely Chastain's kind of a Hall of Famer. To a lot of people, she wouldn't probably say it that way, but we can say that because it's our show, Ashely. Congratulations on being named the D1 National Softball Coach of the Year. I know that you would gladly trade that to be playing in Oklahoma City today, but at the end of the day, you're still a National Coach of the Year, so congratulations. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I, I think it's just really a reflection of the whole staff. And I obviously am very honored and very humbled. And, it's a wonderful recognition, but I do think it's a reflection of the year that we had holistically as a team and a staff. And so I really appreciate it. I'm great. You know how it goes. Season ends in very quickly, abruptly, and you experience a lot of different emotions. And obviously we had our heartbrokens this past weekend, and of course then you get sick. So that's me. I am a little under the weather. I think we've been in fight or flight mode for so long that all of a sudden it comes to an end, and your health is like, whoa, let me throw you a curveball here and get sick the day after season's over. But we're doing great, and we've had some really great conversations the past 72 hours with everybody that was on the 2025 team. And you finished up player meetings yesterday, and now our focus is really on the portal. And a lot of people don't know, but our portal opened on our regional weekend. So it's been open now over a week, and it's very active. And so we're just making sure that we're putting ourselves in a position to get really good players, to continue to build this thing and end our season in Oklahoma next year. So that's kind of been the whirlwind of the last 3 days. It has definitely not slowed down much at all.
I know. You mentioned last week all the prospects would be in town. I'm going to ask you about that in a second, but first we're going to focus on your marriage. So if they send you this award, are you going to put it right on the mantle so Woody gets to see it every day? Like, oh, maybe I should do that at some point in time in my career.
No. He was obviously very sweet, and we haven't had a chance to celebrate anything yet, really, of either one of our seasons, because they had a great year as well. But I think eventually we will. They're finishing up all of their player meetings, and their portal opens soon as well. So we're very much still in go mode, but eventually we'll celebrate. But no accolades on the mantle. I love interior design too much to put something like that on our beautiful, mantle that I've so designed in our home.
That's funny. This was what a ride. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week before y'all played, and just the number of softball fans. Mike mentioned this throughout the season. Like, this is a sport that if people who maybe didn't pay much attention to start to pay attention to, they will gravitate towards it and they will like it. And then you get into the regionals, and then you get into the super regionals, and you look around and you look at that atmosphere, and you look at the passion, the people arguing balls and strikes, just like they do in baseball and things like that. And then even beyond that, I mean, there are people, we had already had a trip planned, or I would have been there. People like us who brought laptops to the beach, to watch the games. And sorry, we got to postpone the birthday because softball is on. I know that it didn't end in Oklahoma City, and I know that was heartbreaking. And I can only imagine what your kids are going through, especially after Saturday's game. But y'all got to have an enormous amount of pride for what you've done in this state and the energy that you've brought to this sport. There's little girls all over this state. My right over my shoulder, right here. There's Riley. She's one of them who, after meeting you and your team, like it brought a new energy to her. And this is happening all over the place. I don't know if your kids understand it yet, Ashely, but that has not happened here in South Carolina in this sport, and y'all have done it. So congratulations. That's something you can certainly carry forward. And I think down the road it's probably going to pay off, maybe by way of recruiting.
Yeah. Well, that's really kind of you to say. And, we really appreciate just the energy that everyone matched us with, because we came in and had a ton of energy and a ton of expectation and a ton of just belief in who we were going to be and the season that we were going to have. And that was well before anybody match that, right? It was, expectations were low, and I think people were excited, but, didn't really know what to expect from this team. And it's been really cool. And I'm just really thankful for the interest and the investment from everybody throughout the year. And I love it for the team because it makes such a difference to feel like you have an entire fan base behind what you're doing. We definitely feel it as a staff, but I think the girls feel it. And, they walk around, campus, and they go around Columbia kind of with their head held high that they are, they matter, and they, people are excited about what they're doing. And so we have a lot of pride, and we are very proud of the year that we had, and definitely want to continue the momentum and just really kind of expand on this year. I mean, as exciting as it was, it fell short of really what we felt like we were capable of. And, sometimes you have to go through that chapter to really like get to the next chapter and to open the door to the World Series. So it's been awesome. And I really do feel the entire fan base. I've had so many just gracious messages over the last couple of days that have really helped us cope with the fact that, we definitely lost on Saturday and Sunday. So we're really excited. I think if we could start season next month again, a lot of people would be on board. It's, the hard part is you have to wait until next winter and next February for the next team to hit the field. But there'll be plenty of opportunities to see next year's team in the fall and through the winter, just to kind of get a taste for what next year's team is going to be like. And it will be different because we are losing a lot of great experience and leadership. But when you build certain types of culture and you build a foundation, we believe that even if you graduate pieces of that, it's really strong. And so it carries on, it bleeds into other people on the team. And so I really like the core group of players we have coming back, and just, that's been some of our conversation with them the past couple of days, of just the expectation that they are now the foundation of leadership and experience and our standard and what we're about, that they'll pass along to all the new players that we have coming in.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. I know Mike probably had the next goal for Carolina softball is to be on ESPN next year with Mike Morgan up in the booth calling the ball game, maybe an Ari Rhodey walkover or something like that.
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Let me squeeze one quick thing in, Mike. This was number one for me today. We were certainly going to ask you about anything you can tell us about who's coming back and what you're looking for and things of that nature. But I wanted to ask you about Saturday, if you don't mind. When that happened, I mean, obviously everybody knew the situation in the seventh inning. I'll probably bet that there was a lot of folks out there already looking on their apps to figure out how much flights were to OKC and tickets and that thing. That's what happens. What do you tell your team after a game like that? And you still got a chance to win the series, obviously, Ashely, but you're teed up and ready to go. And then UCLA is a great program. They're the queens of softball. They've won 12 of these suckers. I mean, there's no shame in being beaten by the best to ever do it, and a team of that stature. But it still hurts. So what do you tell your team after that game?
Yeah, I mean, I think UCLA's made 33 trips to the national stage. The World Series, I think, is the number, and obviously won it 12 times. So yes, I mean, very historic. They've been around a long time, and the program knows how to get there. And there is a lot of value in that. When you build something, if you look at really perennial historical programs, really in any sport, like once your program knows how to get to that stage, they just find a way. And so, we're just not quite there yet as a program, and we still have a lot to do and a lot to build. As far as Saturday goes, we obviously were just such a bad taste in our mouth, as soon as the game was over, and we did our normal post-game debrief. There was a lot of emotions in the room, and I think a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. And we have press, when you're in the postseason, like the press is on schedule. So like we didn't have much time to really debrief and talk about it. So we said a few words. I was really upset myself. So we kind of closed it out really quickly. And then we went to the press conference. And then we brought the team back to the stadium about 9 p.m. on Saturday night and had about a 30-minute conversation I think we needed the hours to really like try to move on from, you know, the 7th inning. And we had a really great conversation. I mean, everybody was in the room, all of our support staff, you know, all of our, you know, our mental performance coach, like everybody was in the room. And we really talked about what happened. We talked about why we felt like it happened. You know, we really kind of dug into it with honesty, and we decided to let it go. And so I thought we woke up on Sunday, you know, very ready to go, and not really holding on to Saturday at all. And, you know, Saturday I would consider a blunder. You know, Robert plays a lot of chess, so I know a lot about the game of chess. I've learned a lot about that since I've been married to him. So, but it was just a blunder. Like we completely blundered the end of the game, and it is what it is at this point. But we met, and I felt like we really moved on. And Saturday was over, and Sunday was a new day. And it didn't work out. You know, it didn't work out for us. And you know, there's a lot of reasons on the field of why, you know, we didn't. It was the second time all year we've been shut out.
Yeah.
The second time, you know, and you think about, we played 61 games in the course of several months, and we've been shut out one other time than Sunday. So UCLA played really, really well on Sunday, and we didn't put ourselves in a position to win. So Sunday we just got beat. And I really feel like Saturday we obviously kind of beat ourselves, which on that stage, you can't do that and expect to get to the World Series. It's just not how it works. So we learned a lot. And I do think down the road, the program will be better for going through the experience that we did this past weekend.
Did you sleep at all Friday night?
Friday night, spotty, very spotty. Yeah. Really, honestly, the whole weekend, you know, sleep was hit or miss for me, and much of the staff too. You know, I think we all were kind of running on empty by the time the weekend was over.
First off, congratulations on the individual accolades, a magical year, and as Jamie pointed out, that I've been pointing out, that I believe that softball will be the next passion project for South Carolina athletics, and you're front and center on that. I know, just speaking to people, you've introduced a lot of Gamecock fans to the sport who are now already hooked and can't wait for next year. So congratulations. And it was a pleasure meeting you. You probably don't even remember this, but Ray and I did the Ole Miss baseball series. You came in the box after we got done and had a great conversation. My wife was a scholarship softball player, so I've had a fondness for the sport here for a bit of time. So Jamie kind of stole my question. Great minds think alike. Let me ask you another one. You know, there's so many great coaches in this league. I mean, UCLA certainly was queen. Oklahoma now, and Patty Gasso, they are queen with the racking up. I think it's 4 in a row, the last 4, and God knows how many total national championships. They have become the standard. And then you've got a Tim Walton at Florida who's won multiple national championships. I'm curious, in your first go-round as head coach in the SEC, what those conversations were like with some of the veteran coaches. Did they welcome you with open arms? Did they offer any kind of advice? Were they the least bit supportive? Did you formulate any type of kinship with some of those folks that have been doing this for a while in this league?
Yeah. You know, everybody, you know, it's kind of funny how it works. I think everybody in the league is very professional. I mean, I think in this, you know, in our league, we have the best coaches around, you know, in the sport right now. And so I've definitely, I think over the course of my career, learned a lot from the people that you spoke of Tim Walton and Patty Gasso and Karen Weekly. I mean, Karen and Ralph have been at Tennessee for decades now. So everyone is absolutely very professional and very welcoming. You know, we spend a lot of time as a coaching body behind the scenes on Zoom calls, and we all go to Birmingham several times a year to meet with the conference reps. And, you know, we consider ourselves kind of on the front line of making the sport as good as we can make it. So, you know, what adjustments need to be made, like, you know, rule changes, Anything that's happening in the sport, I think that our conference is very on the forefront of making sure all of those things happen. So behind the scenes, like as a coaching body, we talk about all kinds of stuff all the time. We have a text thread with the conference. And so there's a lot of communication. It's very professional, very friendly, I would say, until the plate meeting happens. And then when the plate meeting happens, it's all bets are off, it's game on, and everyone becomes very competitive. So, but I do think in the spirit of the game, we have a lot of pride in the coaching body and in the conference and who we are and really representing the sport on the highest level. So I think everyone's very cordial, very professional. I mean, I could call anybody in the league, whether it's Trisha Ford, Karen Weekly, Tim Walton, Beth Tarina. Larissa Anderson is the president of our coaching association organization. So she's very much in the legislation all the time. So yeah, I think we can call and talk to each other, and we do often, about things that happen in the game. And then the plate meeting happens, and all we want to do is beat each other. So it's best of both worlds, I guess, as true competitors. But I have a lot of respect for the league, and there's been a lot of coaches in this league that have been in their positions a long time, which I think when you look at the competitiveness and just the nature of the SEC in general, when you can coach at an SEC school for multiple decades, or even if you get to that 10-year mark, 15-year mark, I mean, that's a special career, in a really high stakes job, which I think is really impressive. So, everyone's a little intense at the plate meeting, including myself. The plate meeting is kind of all right, shake the hand, all the best to you, and now let's go play and beat each other.
we won't ask you who was the most disagreeable coach you had to go up against, but there's always a list. You're just not allowed to talk about it publicly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll save that for well into the off season.
Yes.
What did Lisa Fernandez and Kelly what did they say after the series this weekend to you?
I didn't get a chance to really talk much to them.
Interesting.
When you're on the road with your team, and I can totally empathize and relate to this because obviously we go on the road a lot as well. You're just so focused on making sure that everything is happening how it needs to. And you show up to the ballpark about 2 hours prior to first pitch. So like for a 1:00 start, you're getting there around 11 o'clock. And as soon as you get there, you're on a timeline. You've got things to do leading up to the game, and it's definitely not just a show and go type of situation. I mean, there's a lot that happens leading up to first pitch. And then there's also a lot that happens post game, of just making sure that your players get where they need to go. You're thinking about all the next steps of film review and strategy and all the things. So I didn't get to talk to them a lot. I mean, I think sometimes even in the league, you get to talk to I talked to Patrick Murphy over the phone and text when they were here after the games. There was a lot of weather conversation that week. But there really wasn't much to discuss with Lisa and Kelly. We both had press conferences after every game. And those are two coaches that have had a lot of success and been in the game a really long time. So I have a lot of respect for what they've done at UCLA. And Lisa's one of the best, if not the best player to ever play our game, so I'm sure she gives that to her players, her experiences. So I didn't get to talk to them much, and they obviously are very far apart, and we don't get to compete against them very often. So it's kind of a special situation.
All right, as far as the young ladies, let's start with the young ladies that are departing the program. And I know we hit last week, we talked about Sam and being drafted, and she's going to get a chance to play. She's also coming back to the program to work for you, which I mean, who better? I was texting with Brad Muller, Mike's brother. See, look at Mike. You try to tell me that they're not actually brothers, right? Like we got to
brothers.
Something's
a long
here.
story. Dad was a busy man.
But I was texting with Brad last week. I was like, dude, this is going to come off as kind of odd, but like Sam Gress is like, kid, you want to adopt this kid. Like everybody just loves watching everything about her. She's is cool as a cucumber. She's competitive, but she's also as sweet as they come. But the young ladies who have played their final games due to eligibility, I'm not going to ask you to necessarily speak on the ones jumping into the portal. People can do their own due diligence on that. But replacing them and what you'll be looking for as you move forward here. And I'm assuming last weekend went pretty well. You had 10 official visitors in from the transfer portal for a super regional weekend. Actually, that's a pretty good environment to throw them into.
Yeah. We ended up actually getting 7 on campus. We had some that canceled their visit, and recruiting is such a business these days, and so we don't take anything personal, in the recruiting process, because you kind of experience it all. Everyone's looking for something different, and sometimes people go into the portal with a very clear idea of these are the schools I'm going to target, and so if you're not on that list, sometimes it's hard to even get them on the phone. So it's just recruiting is a dynamic space, and so we are very much making sure that we have the pieces for next year. I think exciting for us is we are returning our core lineup. So we're returning Quincy Lelio, Carly Shelton, Lexi Winters, and Ari Rohde. So if you look statistically, that's our top 4 hitters in a lot of categories, and all 4 of those guys are returning. So we just got to make sure that we kind of build back the bottom of our lineup. And then obviously, as far as the how the lineup is structured for next spring, who knows at this point what that's going to be like, because that'll be based on our personnel. But we've got to make sure that we bring in some pitching. We're returning just a couple arms from this year, and sometimes you have kids that they really want to be on the field a lot. You get one career, you get one opportunity, to make an impact in a program, and really 4 years. And so we've had really great loving conversations with some of them, hey, if you want to play every day, there's definitely a program out there for you. We just need to go find it. Maybe that's not here at Carolina, as hard as that conversation is, but that's just the truth. So we never want to hold anyone back from being able to really get on the field somewhere else. So we're only returning a few arms from this year. Jory Hurd is returning, and we're really excited about that. She's got great experience. And so Neely Lamb is returning, and got 73 innings of experience, and I think she'll be better. I think her best days, especially getting more competitive in the league, are in front of us. So we've got to build a staff, so pitching is very much a priority for us. We need another catcher. We've got Lexi, who has been brilliant behind the plate for us for years and has caught a lot for me. But we do need another catcher that is very reliable in game against our best opponents. So that's a focus of ours. We lost the left side of our infield. So we lost Ella Chansey and Brooke Blankenship, our third baseman and shortstop. So we're looking for a left side infield, players that can play the left side. And then outfield, we were returning Q, but we lost our corner outfielders. So we need some outfielders, some true outfielders that have arms, that can run, that are just really dynamic out there. So if you really examine it, we need a lot of players in every position. And we're waiting for the House settlement to be finalized. That would go into effect July 1st, which would put a roster limit of 25 on our program. So we're going to need 25 players going into next spring. And so our roster is getting a little bit bigger. We had 21 players this past year and 20 that were active, 1 that was inactive. So we're going from a roster of 21 to 25, and we need players all over the field. So you'll see a lot of new Gamecocks. It's going to be really fun, with the fan base getting to know our new team in the off season, because there's going to be a lot of players to get to know.
That last point, Ashley, is kind of ties into what I was going to ask you about. I was mentioning before you jumped on about Nigeri Kennedy and that $1 million plus NIL deal. It always helps when you've got a $4 billion donation.
Sugar daddy.
Yeah,
we call him Sugar Daddy around here.
Yeah, he sold his company for $4 billion plus, and then he's running his own collective in Lubbock, and that's why you can do that. But I know that that's obviously an aberration. That's not the norm in college softball. But I am wondering, with the season you're coming off of, depending on what the restrictions are going to be, can you see more and better NIL opportunities that you can offer your recruits and current players?
Yeah, I do. We had players this past year that were under contract with the Garnet Trust. So in our sport, I think a lot of people are really learning, but our sport is highly supported financially across the board, especially in our league. So, all the programs in our league have money and collective and are able to go get that money from donors to pay their players really well. And there's a lot of money on the table for a lot of players, the best players in the portal. I think we're in a really interesting space right now because we're in kind of limbo from the model of collective money to a model of revenue share.
Right.
And so we're very much in that like space right now. We're anticipating the change, but it hasn't gone into effect yet. So it's dynamic and it's a wild time, to be honest. And so we're just kind of like, we never really know what other schools are working with because we're not operating under the new model yet that we anticipate to on July 1st. So we're in a weird space. And you're trying to decipher, are people offering still collective money until the rev share goes into place, and then, or are they offering rev share because they have rev share? Because rev share is a local decision. It's up to the institution with how the settlement has been written. It's up to the institution to support the programs in their department, how they see fit best for the institution. And so you just never know what people have because it's totally dictated by the administration at the university. Fortunate for us, our department and our leadership is very interested in supporting what we're doing. And I could not be more grateful that, they want us to be good. They want us to succeed. They want us to get to the World Series. And, that takes a lot of backing. It takes a lot of support, which I have felt tremendous from, the previous administration and now our current administration. I'm really blessed in that way that, people see the value and the growth of our game and where our game is headed. So it's a wild time right now, of kind of where we're landing today, which honestly could change any day forward. Because I think the settlement could at any time be finalized and we are officially moving into that new model of revenue share on July 1st. So.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, and in addition, I know that people think Coach Tanner and then they think Jeremiah Donati, but I mean, Hillary Cox, people like that in that athletics department they're on your side. They're going to fight for you. And we know that they are. What type of interest, how do you feel that like the interest has picked up for your program when it comes to players, the high school players and the portal players with the season that you've had?
We have we have a ton of interest. And I think for us, the biggest change is the best players in the portal, right? So, the best players in the portal, we are in their decision.
Wow.
So whereas maybe previously, like, if they had 3 to 5 schools that they were really targeting, all of those would be the 3 to 5 schools in the top of the league, whether it be Tennessee, A&M, Oklahoma, Florida, LSU, like just kind of the brands, the perennial brands of softball. But because of the success we've had and the momentum that we have, we feel people's interest in, like all of a sudden they're taking our phone calls and we're a part of their decision. They want to come to campus and see what we're about, and so I think just the caliber of player that we're able to talk to right now has changed. And, those players, they cost money, they cost money because they're getting money, whether it's collective money or revenue share or whatever, that school is operating in. We're all competing against each other for the same players right now. And so it's, you have to find a way to separate yourself. And, we believe that if we can get a player on campus, agree to visit and give them, a taste of our program in person in Columbia and just have them meet with people here. But we believe that's our best chance at, being in the top 3 of their decision, which I think if you're top 3, it could go any way at any point with a really good player.
Mike, you know who that sounds like? Shane Beamer.
Yeah.
Shane's been saying that for years. I just got to get him on campus. I just got to get him to campus. And once you get him there, if your culture, Ashley, you talk about this all the time, if you have a good culture, the rest of it takes care of itself for the most part. And that's kind of what you're insinuating here, right?
And I know, Ashley, to kind of build upon what you were saying about as bitter a pill as it was to swallow the way that game 2 went down, I can imagine you would use it very similar to the way Ray Tanner used it in baseball when they're number 1 in the country for 6 weeks. They lose to Louisiana Lafayette in game 3 of a super regional when they won game 1. Then they lost a game 3 to a super regional in 2001. And of course, those are the most painful losses of all. If you have a mediocre season, there's not a lot of pain. It's just it's a an everyday disappointment of a different level when you're that close. But he and Jim Tolman and that coaching staff would go to recruits and say, "We were this close. You're the type of player that could put us over the top." So I would imagine you can take that setback and use that somewhat as a positive in recruiting.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you can paint the vision for somebody and get them on campus, and then talk to them about where the program is at and where we want to go, how they can be the difference in that, then you really start to attach, to the emotions of the player. And just most players want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. Like most players are looking for a great team culture, a team that wants to win, a winning team, just no drama, like a team that just really has a vision to go to the World Series. That's what most players want. Most players are about the team aspect and how they can contribute to the whole versus just their individual, what can I gain out of this experience? So if you can paint a picture of how a really good player could be the difference in us winning the Super and going to Oklahoma versus, the heartbreaking loss game 2 and then getting beat in game 3, they start to really be like, man, like I can see myself there. I can see how I could add to the whole holistic vision of where this program's going. So, and our staff is great. Like we spend a lot of time with our players. We spend a lot of time with the parents on the visit of just making sure that this is a really good fit for everybody. And sometimes it's not. That's recruiting. I mean, we recruit so many players, and you have to, especially right now for us because the need is so high. Like we need just volume, right? We're trying to fill a lot of spots this year. But sometimes you get around a family or a player and it's not a fit, and that's why you want to do the visit. That's why you want to get them on campus and just make sure that it feels right and, that it works for both parties. Because, if it doesn't, it's going to present challenges along the way that could essentially hold the whole team back. And that's what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
So,
or you can do what Coach Tanner did and tell Drew Meyer in 1999, you're going to build him a new ballpark and have it here about a decade after he's done. That works too. If you're after the best shortstop in the country. Let me Mike knows what I'm talking about. Drew still talks about it today. He's like, I was told in late 1999 there was going to be a new ballpark here.
He wasn't the only
school.
Told that.
Yeah, 7 years later it shows up. We're just picking on Coach Tanner because we love him. But
it's easy to do that. It's easy to pick on him.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't have anything. He has to take the bullets now. He doesn't have anything else to do. Anything. You just kind of. I would imagine, by the way, y'all's conversation after that series last weekend was probably awesome because he's a great one to have those type of conversations with. He finds a way to, build you up and keep you going and moving you forward and all that stuff. But we're going to get you out of here, Ashley. I know you got more important things to do, but I do want to come back on one thing we hit on last week and one thing we didn't. We had actually caused kind of a good stir around here. A lot of people really were intrigued by the conversation that you and I had about the future of the ballpark when we were talking about the dimensions of UCLA versus South Carolina. And you brought up the stats, at least home runs. That ballpark has allowed the least amount of home runs out of any in the SEC. Matter of fact, probably might have cost you a couple this weekend, and it certainly cost UCLA, I think, one in game one, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, is there, I know, and throughout the season, we've had these conversations, you've been going around the SEC, you take tours, you look at things. Are there things that you will, once you get there, you get through the portal stuff and the roster building, that you will maybe start to maybe focus in on a little bit more with Beckham Field and start to have some conversations about implementing some ideas that you and your staff may have? That's number one. Number two, usually around here, it's been what it was this year. Y'all open up and host 3 straight tournaments. Have you thought of, and then you, of course, kind of opened the schedule of this year. Y'all went and played Duke and Texas Tech. You beat them all. Have you thought about scheduling? And I know there's a bunch of big softball tournaments going in Florida and all over the country, especially early in the season. You know, are those things that are something you're going to look into maybe in the off season as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think the off season is really the time for those conversations. And I can tell you that, you know, we're internally, between the staff and the administration, we're having a ton of conversation about how we can upgrade things around Beckham. And it's a wonderful venue. It's great for the fan base. You know, but there are some things that we really feel like we can make a difference and change. And that helps with everything. It helps with the current player experience. It helps with recruiting. You know, it gets more fans in the stands. You know, so we're definitely exploring options, you know, to make it the best venue that we can. And the bones of it are so great. You know, it was finished in 2013, and the vision of what they had for it, then it was one of the best ballparks in the country. Well, facilities have exploded since 2013. And so we do need to show it a lot of love, especially internally, and just bring a lot of life to it with branding and, you know, space for the current players, you know, and those are all things that recruits look at, and it's really important. And then also we just want to make sure from a training standpoint, like the dimensions of the field or our indoor facility, that we are, you know, training at the highest level we possibly can, you know. So what are the things in the facility that, you know, we can change and make better to make our training experience? Because now we're going into a space in the fall and in the off season where, you know, you train almost every day. So
yeah,
there's definitely a lot of conversations happening behind the scenes of how we can upgrade things and make it better. You know, and again, that doesn't go without the support of Hillary Cox and Jeremiah and, you know, the people that have a vision and excitement for where the program is headed. And then we need a lot of support. You know, those things cost a lot of money, and, you know, we need a lot of support from our fans and, you know, people that, you know, really want to invest in the young women of the program and just into the future of the program. And then, what was the other thing you asked me about? I'm sorry. It's the sick brain. I'm just like, you know,
we've all had it.
I know.
Everybody's either had strep or the flu. Ashley, you're just the next case of it. No, if you've had any thoughts into
the
scheduling in major tournaments and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, I think our model is host 3 on the road for a weekend. I like that model. You know, every year it kind of, which weekend you go on the road changes based on where you want to target to go. So we've gotten invited to a lot of places for next year and in 27. So we've definitely got a lot of exciting things planned. You know, right now we're set to host 3 tournaments, and a lot of great opponents. You know, kind of you bring in 3 or 4 opponents and you play each other all weekend, sometimes Thursday through Sunday, sometimes Friday through Sunday. And that depends a lot of times whether we play 4 games or 5 games on the weekend. So we're going to host 3. We're going to go on the road for a 4th tournament or a series. So we're working to finalize that. We've got a lot of really great options on the table, and I won't disclose yet where it is, because I think people will be really excited about it when I say some of our potential options. But then we start SEC play. We open up at home SEC play this year against an opponent that we did not play this year in the league. And so that will be really exciting to welcome them to Columbia. And yeah, we've got a couple really great options for our bye weekend. We are definitely targeting a Power 4 school for our bye weekend. You know, I think that will be important to us, to challenge ourselves as much as we can in that bye weekend from an opponent that has good pitching and kind of stay in the rhythm, right, of what we're going to be seeing through SEC play. And ultimately, getting the 8 seed versus the 9 or 10 seed came down to our bye weekend and our weekend preseason against Duke, and that we had success there that separated us. So we want to make sure that we're making decisions from a scheduling standpoint that puts us in that position again. And then the team has to go obviously have the success at the time. But we love scheduling. We really get down into the nitty gritty of our PI and making sure that our schedule is diverse enough and tough enough, and all the things that you need to put yourself in a position to be in a good spot with the committee for postseason. So I should have more updates, as the summer moves on, or early fall, of confirming some things with the fans of where you can see us play. But we've been working on it for a year. It's been in the works for a year. So we do that stuff way far in advance.
Well, just doing my math here, just make, because you're making us all think between the lines. I'd say, not saying it is, but there's a better than average chance that it could be a team that's in the World Series right now. Maybe it's not. I'm just doing math. So
Okay.
if the University of South Carolina is smart, they put season tickets on sale like now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Put them out there and let these suckers get eaten up. We always enjoy having you. You've turned into the favorite guest around here over Shane, over Mike, all these other losers. They don't hold a candle to Ashely Chastain Woodard. And I'm certainly speaking for the fans here. They're incredibly proud of what y'all been able to do this season. Ashely, thank you. I mean, we'll have you back, obviously, throughout the summer just to check in on things and stuff like that. But you always give us time. No matter where you are, on the road or at home, sick, whatever it is, you have always granted the time that we asked for, and even much more so than that. We can't thank you enough. But more importantly, congratulations to you and your young ladies on a special, special season, and good luck filling the left side of the infield. Those girls are phenomenal.
I know.
Holy moly.
It's such a cool problem to have, and it's such a blessing that, we lose such great players and have such big shoes to fill. So that's how you want it to be. And, it's unfortunately you can't coach them forever. If you could, I would never let them go. But we're really excited for the senior class and what's next for each of them in their lives. They've all got really exciting chapters coming up, and I believe they're really prepared for it, which is what it's all about. And, they're ready for the next phase of life. And, thank you for everyone. Just the support and the love all season long. We're not going anywhere. So we'll be back, and I'm excited to talk about the new team as we progress and build that through the summer.
Mike, where she was wrong there, though. You can coach them as long as you want. Just sue the NCAA. That's kind of the name of the game. Isn't it?
Jamie has a good lawyer. Just ask him. He'll refer you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I believe
All right,
Jackie
Ashely.
Giles will be on the retainer.
Yeah, that's right. Get you a Z-Pack and get better.
Thank you.
So you can go sign all those players.
Thank
you, Coach.
Thanks, Ashely. See you.
Bye. Thanks.
Ashely Chastain Woodard.